Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. I'm really excited for this video. It's like 4 years in the making from meeting the gentleman that's standing here beside me. And will you introduce yourself and the nursery?
Yeah, hi, I'm Steve Castorani, president of North Creek Nursery. We've been doing this for 36 years, and we're really proud of what we do.
What type of plants do you mainly produce here?
We produce perennials, grasses, ferns, with a heavy emphasis on eastern regional native plants.
Okay, what percentage of the nursery is native, would you say?
Of what we produce for sale is about 85%.
About 85%. And we are in, several things here, because I don't want this to be too all over the place, but I am excited to be here because I came to this nursery on a tour and I was amazed by the way you handled water runoff here, the way you were using biological controls in the greenhouses, all kinds of things that we're going to learn about in this video that we're excited to talk about for sure.
Yeah, we're like in the hotbed of horticulture.
Yeah, okay. That's true.
In and around Philadelphia, they promote 30 gardens in 30 miles of Philadelphia.
Wow.
The DuPont legacy is pretty strong here in our area with Longwood Gardens, Winnetor, Mount Cuba Center. Mm-hmm. Mount Cuba Center being a garden that, when it became public, Mrs. Copeland wanted a garden that amplified eastern regional native plants, Appalachian species, coastal species, wider range. And so that's real special. There was a movement also in our early days of our business where we started to work with landscape architects that were changing that paradigm to looking at native plants and the functional aspects of native plants, and the combination of beauty and function. And so as we developed the nursery and as the nursery matured, one of the things we looked at in our byline is where horticulture meets ecology. Right, and that's kind of like sums up who we are, because the plants have a lot of value, whether it's for stormwater remediation or for pollinator activity and a host of other things. Yeah. So that's really kind of become our mission, is to really get those plants out and mainstream these beautiful plants that actually function in the landscape and have multiple seasons of interest and value.
So, okay, what would you say this nursery's role in the horticulture industry is? Because you're not open to the public. This is a wholesale only nursery.
This is a wholesale nursery.
Yeah.
Our function is really a plant propagation nursery, and I really like to say that first of all.
We're going to see some of that in the video too.
We do plant propagation. Yeah. So, and we have, over the course of our 36 years, developed processes to understand how the plants grow and how best to scale that, because it's not like a small propagation nursery. When we get plants that become in demand, we have to scale them up to get them out to wholesale growers throughout a good part of the country, plus into landscapes regionally, where we developed the landscape plug that we could go right into the landscape for landscape contractors, landscape architects, for nature centers, but also your clients, the people watching this video probably have bought a North Creek plant, but they don't know it because they bought it from one of our customers that finished it and made it into a beautiful plant that they took home.
So it may go to a garden center that happens to finish things, or another wholesale nursery that may have finished it and then send it to a garden center, probably, and then directly to a lot of your plants are ending up in restoration projects, native restoration projects.
We think about 65 to 75%, depending on a given year and a given project. The projects where our wholesale customers are pretty consistent. Yeah. But our product has gotten into a lot of different landscapes, whether it's a detention basin, it could have been the development of the Longwood Meadow. We can go on and on. Our plants get around quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, so when you're looking at a plant, these plants that have been here all along, they were right under our noses as we were bringing the Asian and European and African plants and other places in here. It's like going back to the drawing board a little bit, trying to figure out how to produce them, in production, right?
Yeah, some are easy and some are not.
Right. These Carexes, which there were virtually no Carexes out in the trade, and now, there's a whole bed of them right here. Yeah. There's just, it seems like more every year. It was like going and finding something that was always there.
Yeah.
And then figuring out how to produce it.
Right. And I'll give credit to the landscape architects a lot of times, because they started, some of them, that were really plant focused, started to understand that function.
Right.
And we get asked, even on the retail level, have a retail garden center.
Yeah.
You get asked, what grows in dry shade? What can grow? The grass always dies under my oak tree.
Yeah.
Well, Carex fills that position. Sort of those
Right.
Carex species fill, so they become solution-based landscapes.
Right.
And Carex just fits in. And when somebody wants to put Carex down as a lawn substitute, it can be a lot of plants. And so we have to scale up to a quantity that meets that demand. And that demand's been growing and growing over the many, 10, 15 years now that Carex has become more and more popular.
Yeah.
And Mount Cuba Center is an example. A couple of years did a Carex trial and listed which ones are most had the best utility and or ornamental value in different situations.
Right.
And as soon as that was published, we were getting phone calls for plants that weren't even in production yet. And then we had to go figure out, how are we going to do this? It doesn't give seed. Can it go into tissue culture? Can we do it from division? So it's a very complicated. Propagation's complicated.
Yeah. But it's interesting. It's literally discovering plants that were already here, that we were walking past in the woods and or whatever, or in our streams and places, and then also taming them in some ways, right? I mean, some of them can be a bit, if we give some of our native plants perfect growing conditions in our ornamental landscapes, some of them can get a little...
Yeah, they can be managed, and they can also be selected.
Yes, so there's a lot of selection.
I mean, I know there's hybridization, and we're not really talking about that with native plants, so I don't use the word native art.
It's maybe seeding out 100 of something and then picking one that just has a tendency to be more compact, but it's still the straight species.
Another ornamental feature, or looking at a whole, like Mount Cuba, again, I'll refer to them, a whole putting out selections of these native plants or different genus and species, and say, oh, well, this one compares to that. Oh, yeah, it stays a little bit more controlled. It's more floriferous. It has higher pollinator value, things like that.
Yeah. Arden, can you introduce yourself?
I'm Arden Pontash. I'm the plant trials manager here at North Creek Nurseries.
Nice. We're in your what you call the lower plant trials now.
Yes.
Tell us something about trialing here, because there's an upper trials area and then down here. Tell us how you go about trialing plants that you might put in production.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So we take here at North Creek Nurseries, we take trialing very seriously. We believe, we like to say that we grow plants that stand the test of time, and we put all plants that are new to us through a rigorous process of evaluation for at least 3 years before we consider them for production. From there, we take them and do various propagation trials before we settle upon the one that makes the most sense for us.
And where would you be acquiring things that you'd be trialing? Is this?
Oh, that's a good question.
Is it collections, or is it from other breeders?
Anywhere from independent breeders, mom and pop, all the way to big conglomerates. Universities, botanical gardens. We run the gamut, and we're featuring at least 500 individual plant species within our trials currently. So
really, okay, wow, that's a lot. Okay, so I came back to this nursery for one main reason. I toured this years ago with a garden center group meeting that I was at, and met Steve for the first time, and then I was like just completely enamored with the part of this is the environmental responsibility that you guys seem to take, the seriousness of the fact that you are making, this, a nursery can be, impactful in the space that it resides in. And I was amazed by how you guys are collecting water, trying to get it down in the ground. Can you explain?
Of course.
Yeah.
What I like to say is we have both formalized and functional gardens. So we do feature plants that we have in our catalog, in our trial gardens, but we also have functional gardens where we run the water that we displace through all of our impervious surfaces, through various systems, such as rain gardens or constructed wetlands, where we can slow that water down and infiltrate it before it reaches, the watershed.
Right. And the goal is not even allow it to get to the pond.
Exactly.
Most nurseries are collecting the water within the pond, as quick as possible, and you guys are trying to get the water in the ground. Before it reaches the pond.
Recharge that aquifer.
Right.
Yeah.
And then displace the fact that you have plastic roofs and gravel parking lots and roofs on your offices and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so we even have a rain garden with several forebays where we are taking the time to scoop out that sediment before it even reaches the rain garden itself, so that we can properly utilize that system. And
the plants in those bioswales are probably using up the last of the fertilizer, so the fertilizer is also not making.
I will say the fertilizer that we utilize is all slow release for the most part, and we are very responsible with the way that we water our plants. There's very little runoff that even would hit the gravel. So it's more about the water that hits our roofs, and we're slowing that down. So I would say fertilizer reaching our water systems is very, very low.
Wow.
Very low.
Okay, all right, we moved into a greenhouse setting, and this is right about where I was on this tour when my mind got blown at your all biological controls in these greenhouses. So no synthetic chemistry.
No synthetic chemistry. It took us a long time to get here. It took a lot of scouting and watching trends of various pests that we were then able to visualize, create visualizations to show us when to expect those pests, so that we could create our own system, our own spray system, various systems with our own setup.
Yeah, right. So you basically said we're seeing this pest at this time. If we were to back up a week and release ladybugs or whatever, then you would be in control of it up front.
Exactly. We, for instance, we know when we can expect spider mites, so then we can, start setting out those predatory insects to defeat them, a few weeks in advance, so that then they'll already be there once the spider mites are there.
We're in a fog. We're in a fog. You have traps, like sticky traps that everybody would recognize.
Absolutely.
Okay, so if you see something on sticky traps, you can see.
That's one of our tools. We also, do regular scouts with visualization. We're just picking through and scouting. Yep.
This is one of folks' big concerns frequently is I'll get, they're buying Asclepias, they're buying something that's supposed to be beneficial for a pollinator, and they want to know the place that it originated. Were they spraying it? Was the nursery spraying it? Was the garden center spraying it? Along the way. And
so, being completely biological is really important for us for that pollinator aspect, so that our plants are ready to go immediately into the landscape and be completely safe for pollinators to visit. And it also makes it easier for our customers who then grow that plant on.
We were just standing over in the greenhouse and you see all the trays filled with whatever you're in the process of rooting.
Various prop types.
Growing out. So what are some of the different ways that you guys will start your perennials?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So we have a lot of different tools in our toolbox. We are a propagation nursery. We produce from unrooted cuttings, both in-house and bought in.
Gotcha.
So
this will be a cutting that you guys took here.
Yep.
So when we're talking about cuttings, we're talking about just literally taking a vegetative piece off the plant.
This would produce a new plant.
Yes, right.
And so of the plants that we produce from unrooted cuttings, we produce about 80% in-house. This is a really important aspect of North Creek because that helps us grow plants that wouldn't otherwise be available in the market. We, like I said earlier, we pride ourselves on growing plants that stand the test of time, and a lot of those plants that we offer and grow in-house are not, like I said, they're not available elsewhere.
This would be considered a softwood cutting. So I have a lot of propagation videos on my channel, and it's mostly for woody plants, and we're using kind of semi-hardwood cuttings.
Sure.
Right. This is a very delicate softwood cutting, and it has to be handled. It has to be handled gently, and it has to go in quick, and
Correct.
it has to be under that fog that you and I were standing in really quickly.
The fog really helps with hydrating the leaves.
Right.
That's more desirable to a plant, believe it or not, than even the soil being wet.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And you can overwet the soil.
Correct.
So the fog is great for keeping the leaves wet, but not overdoing the water in the soil.
Optimal.
So what other ways are you guys starting plants?
So I'll just go with our seed propagation.
Right.
We do about 40% from a seed.
Right.
We do collect seed in-house from our
Gotcha.
own gardens, and then we also buy in seed
Gotcha.
from various sources.
Nice.
And then what I have here is lobelia from tissue culture. So tissue culture is about 10% of what we produce.
Gotcha. We did a video down in Florida at a TC lab that folks can go back and watch. But why would you cut? This is the least expensive ways to do this. Obviously,
Exactly.
why do you jump up in expense? Why would you take a plant and put it in TC rather than?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So you're really holding on to the specific qualities of that plant.
Gotcha.
To preserve them throughout time
Gotcha.
within the tissue culture lab. And
Gotcha.
optimally, that lab is renewing their own internal stock
Right.
regularly
Right.
so that they can still replicate that.
Yeah, and that's what we saw at the TC lab. They'll go back to the mother plant. They can go back to the mother stock occasionally and keep that genetic drift from happening that might
Correct.
happen otherwise if you were, yeah.
Yeah, so keeping those specific qualities, because with seed propagation, while there are specific qualities that would be represented within a species, there is variation and diversity within that. We find that for a lot of our ecological customers, that's very desirable, and that's something we value as well.
Right.
But for people who want something more predictable, there are specific plants, cultivars that we also buy in and produce. So one other reason that we produce plants from tissue culture is for the sheer number of plants that are replicable within TC. So
Right.
some plants cannot be produced at the numbers that we need to produce them from seed or division. So we need to produce them via TC as well to be able to get the sheer number into the ground.
Right, and there might be some things that are just difficult in general to root.
Sure.
Right,
Definitely.
that could be another reason that you would do it as well.
This is a plant, Caris plantinigea, that we just couldn't meet production demands and supplier demands. So what we decided to do is put it into tissue culture over in Europe. So this is our first batch of trial plants. We get 100 as a trial to see how they do for us, if we can acclimate them in our greenhouse. These look really good, so next year we're expecting to receive full production numbers for this plant.
You got one area with a deer fence over here. Yeah. So these are the plants that really became important.
Yes.
Right,
yes.
okay, from your trials.
From the upper trials, these plants have graduated. They're now planted in what we call our comparison gardens, or our side-by-sides, where we compare plants that we are interested in and perhaps growing one or two species of next to others within that same genera.
Okay, gotcha. So it may have looked great out here in your trial garden, but maybe when you put it side by side with somebody else's genetics or something like that, it may not stand up.
Correct. Yeah, things might look a little bit worn for wear. We've certainly had some drought periods, but we also are not doing anything to these plants similarly to our upper trials area. We're not catering to these plants at all. We're not babying them. We want them to show us exactly who they are so that we can tell our customers about that.
Right. Beautiful. We went through your various propagation methods over there, and so the cuttings that you're taking on site or division, are you doing any division?
Oh yeah, we're doing divisions
So
as well.
division and cuttings, you have houses with stock plants.
Correct, yes.
Gotcha.
Like I mentioned prior, we take our stock program very seriously. We like to preserve those plants that stand the test of time, both in our gardens and in our greenhouses, to produce them in-house. The input cost is way cheaper than what we might buy in, and we're able to control our IPM program way better.
Right.
A lot of our diseases and insects that come onto the farm are not produced internally.
Right.
And so, you know, we're able to kind of take responsibility for our own issues and prevent a lot of things
from
that
them
might
having
happen.
by keeping the stock right
by
here on
keeping
site.
everything clean within our IPM program.
Yeah, in your envelope.
Correct.
Yes,
Yes.
right. There. So this had a really big impact on me touring nurseries. I tour a lot of nurseries. I mean, I really tour a lot of nurseries. I'm many in a year. But 4 years ago, you know, this place had a pretty big impact on all the details of what you guys are doing in terms of taking care, you know, the native plants focus, the taking care of the, you know, not letting the water run off this place, and the biological controls, all of it together. So thank you guys very much for, you know, having a team. The other thing I was amazed by, and I didn't really touch in this, is the young people, the impact of a lot of the young people you have working here.
Thanks for coming back and focusing on that. And it's the team. We didn't see Victoria here, but
Right.
She said, we met her.
Yeah,
She's
we
our
did.
Production
We did,
manager.
yes.
And what did she say? She says, it's not me, it's the team.
team, she
And
did.
it's not me, it's the team. We've developed a tremendous team
Right.
of engaged people, a lot of young people, a lot of opportunity here for people in the industry. And really, it's great that you're highlighting our industry and the opportunities in the industry, because
Right.
it's not just growing plants, it's all those other things that kind of
Right.
fit together in the process of growing plants and the
Right.
effect of those plants on the environment.
And one of the conversations before we wrap this up that we had over at the Mount Cuba Center was about, we're going to need trained folks for this. I mean, we've had a lot of mow, blow, and go is what I call it, mowing grass, pruning things into meatballs. And if we're going to switch to a more ecological landscapes that are pollinator friendly, we're actually going to need people
Yes.
that are professional folks that can't just come in and cut everything down to,
Who know what they're looking for and what they're looking at.
right.
What are they managing for?
So there is opportunity in the
There's
future.
a lot of opportunity, especially in, you know, everybody takes the plants home or they go on a commercial site, and getting that opportunity to educate people on how to maintain these plants over time and these landscapes over time is really important. I think there's a a great opportunity in that sense to really, you know, have a better understanding of how these plants work, how dynamic they are over time.
Beautiful. Thank you, Arden. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for coming.
Thanks.